In this Sephiroth guide, I'm going to be going over Sephiroth's neutral special. I'm going to start this off by explaining the properties of the move. I know that some of you may already know what the move does. I will keep this part brief, but I want to explain it so that everyone is on the same page as we're going through this move. And then after I explain the properties of the move, I will then go into some tips, tricks, and advice on how to use this move and what I've found out with it. And then lastly, at the very end of the video, I'll post some of my own gameplay using the neutral special. That way you can see it in action and have a visual representation of what I'll be discussing in this guide. So to start things off, Sephiroth has access to actually 3 neutral specials called Flare, Mega Flare, and Giga Flare. So Flare is this one, Mega Flare is this one, and then Giga Flare is the final version right here. So how do you do each of these? You just simply hold down your neutral special or your special button, and whenever you want to release it, you just let go of it, right? So if you happen to be on the blue animation, you're going to release the Giga Flare. If you're in the red animation, you're going to release the flare like that. And obviously, if you get all the way to the Giga Flare animation, then you will release that one. Another important thing is that you can cancel this animation at any point by doing a spot dodge, a roll, or a jump. This is extremely important. You can also do this in the air. So if I'm in the air, I can use my second jump like so, or a dodge or a air dodge to cancel it as well. And you can even chain it with an attack like this, so cancel out of it into a jump attack. So one thing to mention though is that you cannot cancel it if you're about to shoot out the Giga Flare. Once you start the Giga Flare animation, it cannot be canceled. So just keep that in mind. However, you can literally do it almost up until the very last second, and just like so. So see, I was about to start up the Giga Flare animation, but you can cancel it right before, right? This can throw off your opponent in a lot of different ways, especially if instead of canceling it, you just throw out the Mega Flare. So last thing about the move is that in terms of its properties, is that if you throw out the flares, you can see right there, it travels the farthest. However, it travels the slowest and does the least amount of damage and knockback. And if you shoot out Mega Flare, it travels faster, but it doesn't go as far. However, it does a lot more damage and a lot more knockback. And I believe its explosion radius is also bigger. And then if you shoot out the Giga Flare, then it travels the slowest. However, it goes the shortest distance, so that's not a big deal. And it does the most damage and has the most knockback and the largest explosion radius. Okay, so that's the properties of the move. So now for the tips, tricks, and advice. So one thing that's very powerful about this move, well, there's a lot of things, but one thing is that when you throw it out, it always explodes at the end of its travel distance. So it doesn't actually have to hit a target to explode. So this is something that you can use to your advantage in a very powerful way, because since it doesn't have to hit a target, if someone's like jumping over you or they're falling down right after you hit them out of the blast zone, you can just throw your flare in an area near where they're going to be or where they're going to have to like jump to or whatever, right? And you can catch them with the edge of the explosion if you want to, right? So you don't actually have to hit them. Or you can time it when they're going to do some type of dodge animation, right? And basically trap them in the explosion, because they may dodge the actual hit, right? But they're not going to dodge the rest of the explosion since it's a multi-hit move. So that's one very important thing to keep in mind, is that this explosion explodes without having to be on impact, and you can incorporate that into your gameplay. Another important thing to keep in mind that I already showcased is the fact that you can cancel this move. This is very powerful, because while this move does have a long startup animation, as you can see, just to throw flare, it takes that long, right? You can't see when I'm pressing the button. Let me see if you can hear it. Yeah, so from when I press the button, hopefully I can line it up when I do my video editing, but when I press the button right there, the flare took a while to come out, right? It has a longer startup animation. So But don't let that deter you from this being a good projectile, because even though it does take a while for it to even come out, right? Even just the faster flare version or the first version, this move is still really powerful because you can cancel it at any time. So this means that this move is very low risk and extremely high reward. The reason it's low risk is because I can just sit over here and threaten this move at basically any time, but then cancel it by jumping or dodging, which are some of your best movement options in the game. You know, like a dodge is how you dodge things in the game. So, you know, you can cancel the animation by doing a safe defensive or offensive in terms of a jump, attack, movement option, right? So I can, you know, cancel it into a aerial, right? Or cancel it into a more defensive option like a dodge, right? So right here. So yeah, that's just extremely powerful because I can basically threaten to throw this move at you at any time I want during the match. And you're not really going to be able to do anything about it, because if you try to hit me and I'm paying attention to what you're doing, right, I'm just going to cancel it and dodge, or cancel it and roll the other way and then hit you, right? So if you try to approach me while I'm doing it, I just have so many options, right? You know, like if you think that you're going to get a hit, I can just, as I said, cancel my move and dodge through you and hit you if I want to, right? But then also, I can also cancel it into an attack and attack you too via a jump attack, right? Even a neutral air. You know, if you get super close to me, boom, I just do my neutral air. Or if you're up over my head, I can cancel it into a up air, right? So I can cancel this move and hit you with whatever I want from whatever angle that you're coming at me at. Or I can just dodge, right, and do a spot dodge and follow up with something else or an air dodge or whatever, right? So I can basically throw out this move for free because there's nothing you can do to stop me, right? And oftentimes if you do try to stop me, I can just hit you with one of my own moves. And also, even if you do try to stop me, if your spacing's wrong, I can just release this at any time. Like, you have no idea when I'm going to release this move, right? I can just hold it the entire time, or I can just cancel it, right? Like, I can just stop the move completely and continue the fight, or I can throw it out at any point. Like, you think I'm going to do Mega Flare, but then boom. Well, that was Mega Flare. But you think I'm going to do the final form of Giga Flare, and then right before the animation starts, I don't. Instead, I throw out the Mega Flare, right? So I can also just launch the projectile, because since it explodes at pretty much any point, right, then there's not really anything that you can do to stop it, right? Because I can time the explosion to where it's still going to hit you, because it doesn't have to actually hit you. It's going to explode at that point every single time. All right, so it seems I got a little sidetracked and had to edit in this part of the video. So I believe where I last left off was that Sephiroth's neutral special is extremely safe because you can cancel it at any time, right, via a dodge or an attack, because you can start up his aerial attacks, because since you can cancel it with a jump, that means you can cancel it with a jump aerial attack, right? So even a jump aerial down air, right? So yeah, you can cancel this move at any point in the animation, so it's extremely safe. But on top of that, you can also charge it, so they never know when you're going to throw it out. And it's even more dangerous because the longer you charge it, the stronger this move gets. So like, they can't just let you keep charging it, right? So if you space it right, you know, where you know that they're where they're gonna jump to, or where their movement is going, like what their options are, right? Then you can basically force movement out of your enemy with this, because if they just let you sit there and charge it, then they're either gonna eat the move, right? Because the move always explodes without actually hitting them, right? It just has to hit in that area, right? And the explosion does multiple explosions, you know, so they can't just dodge one frame of it. You actually can dodge the Sephiroth's entire explosion if you time your dodge at the very exact moment and not take any damage from it. I'm not sure about his ultimate form, the Giga Flare. You can definitely do it with his second form, the Mega Flare, because I do it all the time. It does require very precise air dodge, though. So it is very hard to just straight up dodge his all the damage of his explosion if it actually hits you or hits near you. However, even getting them to dodge is still good, because that forces an action out of them, right? So Sephiroth's neutral special, if you use it in the right situations, it forces movement out of your opponents, right? If you ever played against a person who's very patient, right, and you want a character that can force movement out of them, or an option to force movement out of them, use your neutral special. Because, you know, whether they shield it, if they shield it, it does a lot of shield damage, right? You can follow up with a grab and attack, whatever you want to do, depending on which of the flares that you throw out. But yeah, this isn't a move that people want you to basically just be able to throw out. And I'll show you one of the other reasons why too. So, you know, if I throw out my regular flare, right, I can actually run behind it. So if you time it right at the end of the animation, you can get Sephiroth to chase after it like that, and that opens up a lot of options for you. However, let me show you that when Sephiroth is in his one winged form, how fast he can move behind that fireball. Okay, so if I shoot out flare, yeah, see, I can zoom behind that fireball, right? And follow up with all types of different options, whatever I want to do, right? So yeah, the fireball is extremely powerful. It forces movement out of your opponents, right? Because they have to respect the damage, the blast radius, the shield damage, just the raw power of this move, right? So since it forces your opponent to do something, if you read or force them in a situation where they can only do one thing, right, then you can either get a free punish, or, you know, if you read the situation, only give them one option. But if they have multiple options, you could go for the read, right? Because if you throw an explosion at them and they have to shield, you could go up for a grab, you could try to get an attack. If you think that they're going to jump over it, you could jump up and hit them instead, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can use this neutral special to deal with their moves as Sephiroth. And then, yeah, you just need to be sure that you're using that cancellation in combination with the charge up and the fact that it explodes at any point without actually hitting anyone, all in conjunction to get the most out of this move. And once again, it's one of the most low risk moves in this game because you can cancel it at any point that you want to, which is extremely, extremely powerful because it just makes this move so safe, right? Some other things to keep in mind with Sephiroth's neutral special is that you want to be mixing it in with your side special. So Sephiroth's side special, I won't go over it in this video. I'll make a separate video for it. I believe it's called Shadow Flare. You can see it's extremely fast. You can charge it up and you can change the direction of the hit. Charging it up gives it different types of effects. But anyways, it's really fast, right? So you can be using this move to hit your enemy, right? In neutral. And then when they think that they're going to be hit by a shadow flare, you know, instead you can turn around and do a mega flare instead, right? So you're shooting out shadow flares, right? And then suddenly you're doing this, right? And then in that moment they have to respond to it, right? Because this is a very powerful spell. They can't just sit there and let you charge it up if you position it right. So you're shooting out these shadow flares and then suddenly, you know, you're shooting out a mega flare. And even if they can still threaten an attack on you, as I said, you can just dodge it by canceling it into a spot dodge or even a neutral air or an attack of any kind. So yeah, you definitely want to be using it in conjunction with your side special to mix up your enemy. The last thing with Sephiroth is some specific tech with neutral special that I know of is that you can do a B reversal, which basically looks like this. You can basically start your neutral special facing one way and then have it happen the other way like so. You know, so if you don't know how I did that, I'll explain it. So to be able to do the neutral special reversal, you have to do it really fast. So you have to hit your special, and then pretty much as soon as you hit your special button, you'll want to immediately hit the direction that is opposite of you on your analog stick. And when I say immediately, I mean almost immediately. So it's almost like you're inputting a side special, but instead of doing them the input direction and the B at the same time, you're hitting B and then almost immediately afterwards, so almost at the same time, hitting the opposite direction. So it is a very strict timing. So yeah, you definitely want to practice that tech, which is the neutral special reversal. And then also, as I said, mix it up with your side specials. So I just wanted to add in that you can do a neutral special reversal in the air like so. And if you do it in the air, your character can get a lot of drift in the direction that you do the B reversal in, so you can use this to your advantage to throw your opponent off guard. However, as I'll show in this next clip, you can also do a B reversal in the air without getting any momentum drift and landing in about the same spot that you started when you got your jump in. So whichever version you want to do, you have access to both if you input the controls correctly. And then lastly, when you do a jumping aerial out of Sephiroth's neutral special to cancel it, right, like so, depending on how you input it, you can get your character to move forward like this, right, or to move backward. But sometimes you don't want him to move, right? You just want to have him stay stationary because that'll be the best positioning for you to be in. I find it easier to do this if you do your aerial attacks with your right analog stick, which is a setting that you can have in this game. So yeah, when you're in the air, instead of doing a input direction to do your aerial attack, instead of like a forward input and the attack button, right, instead use your right analog stick to do the forward air, because when you come out of this neutral special cancellation, you can just hit the jump button and the right direction, in this case on your right analog stick, to do the jump cancel into an attack. So it's super easy. All I'm doing is just hitting the jump button and the right direction on my analog stick to do that move right there. So yeah, so super easy, super efficient way to do it, and it guarantees that you'll always stay in place without any drift. Because if you use the traditional method of using your directional input with your attack button and then also inputting a directional input, it'll actually make your character model drift. I actually have an entire video about that, about why you should be using the right stick to perform your aerial attacks, that I'll link in the description of the video if you're interested. And I also have a video that goes over an optimal controller setup, and this controller setup does benefit Sephiroth very well, though I may make a specific Sephiroth video for it, but he doesn't really need one. But just know that this controller setup that I'll link in this video does benefit Sephiroth extremely well for his mechanics. A few quick things that I forgot to add in my original recording is that Sephiroth's neutral special can be reflected or absorbed. So you do need to be careful if your opponent has reflect or absorb in their move kit. However, you shouldn't be getting this attack reflected or absorbed, because you can cancel it at any time, right? So if you feel that your opponent has a window of opportunity to reflect it or absorb it, you can just cancel it. You know, it's usually not going to be worth taking the risk on the off chance that they may miss their timing on their counter or their absorb, right? However, since this neutral special does act as an explosion, you know, as long as they're not reflecting the actual center part of your fireball, they can't reflect it back at you. So you can still use the explosion to perhaps catch them with some damage, right? Even through their reflect, or at least even if they reflect the damage from the explosion, or at least part of it, it's not going to send the fireball reflecting back at you. So you can still throw this move out and avoid reflects or absorbs if you use it that way. But as I said, honestly, you can just cancel it every time. So once again, this is a very low risk move, because since you can cancel it at any time, you don't have to throw it out. You only throw it out when it's going to be to your advantage. And just a note, if someone does absorb it, like a Ness or a Lucas, it actually doesn't heal them for that much, even if you shoot your Mega Flare one at them, right? Like let's say a Ness or a Lucas absorbs that. Apparently, when they can absorb it, it only absorbs the initial hit of it, right? Which actually doesn't deal that much damage, so they don't actually heal that much off of absorbing these moves. So if you're trying to edge guard a Ness off stage with this move, then this is something beneficial that you can do with your neutral special, is to basically throw it at them off the stage, and if there's an off chance that they get the timing exactly right that they can absorb it, you don't have to worry about that too much, and you can still go for the gamble, because they're not going to heal that much off of the absorption of it. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that you can use Sephiroth's neutral special not only in neutral, as I mentioned earlier in the video, in terms of forcing movement out of your opponent, but you can use the same concept of forcing movement out of your opponent to set up some nasty ledge traps with Sephiroth and edge guards too. But in terms of ledge trapping, right, as you can see, if I charge up my blue one right here, right, it goes to the side of the map. And if you time that explosion to when they have to come up and snap the ledge, you can basically time it to where it's going to explode when their invincibility runs out on their ledge snap. So they're pretty much forced to quickly get up and jump, right? Like if their invincibility is about to run out and they think that they can make the jump, they're going to have to try to get off the ledge and jump really quick. Or they have to fall from the ledge and try to re-snap it, which at that point you can go for a free spike, via your down air, or launch another one because they don't have any invincibility frames, or they'll have less when they try to snap onto the ledge a second time. Or they'll try to roll forward. If they try to roll forward, you can just hit them with a forward smash or a side tilt. So yeah, if you time this explosion when they're about to snap the ledge and when their invincibility is going to run out, then you can force movement out of them and punish that movement. You can also do that off stage too if you're trying to get an edge guard situation, depending on what's happening, right? You can go out to the edge of the map and just kind of, threaten one of these, cancel it, whatever. You can also do a B reversal, which I showed earlier in the video. But, you could jump off the ledge and then turn around and hit them like that, right? Now, obviously, you want to time it to where you can make it back to the ledge afterwards. But that's one way you can use a B reversal and throw one of your flares into the side of the stage. So when they're trying to recover, they'll just take an explosion damage, right? Or if you're not comfortable with the B reversal, you can run up to the ledge, stop, turn around, and do it like that, right? Last thing is that when you cancel it with the jump, it pretty much automatically does the short hop if you just jump normally. If you want to get access to the full hop, I recommend you hold the jump button down to get the full hop up. Otherwise, it just does a short hop on its own just by how you would normally press the button. Maybe not, yeah, but it seems like it does a short hop out of the animation more often than not, unless you purposely hold the button down, I don't know. Yeah, that's something you can mess around with. That one may not be that big of a tip, honestly. But yeah, just keep in mind when you're going to cancel it with the jump, be cognizant of whether you want to do a short hop or a full hop. So I've actually got just a few more tips and tricks on the neutral special that I did not add in on the other recordings. You know how I mentioned that you can cancel Sephiroth's neutral special, right? I mentioned you can cancel it via a spot dodge, or jump. You can also cancel it via a shield or a grab, right? So obviously a shield is a very powerful mechanic. There will be times, certain situations, it's more beneficial to do your shield as opposed to doing a jumping aerial, right? And then same with the grab. You may be wondering, when would you ever grab them instead of releasing it? Well, a situation I can think of is that if they have a reflect, like let's say Joker in his Arsene form, right? And they're getting very close to your character, they're falling through the air, and they think that they're going to be able to get an easy reflect off on you because they also are thinking that if you cancel it and do an attack, then they'll reflect that as well. Then when they get that close, you can just cancel it and grab them instead as they fall, and that would actually be pretty funny. So yeah, those are two other ways which you can cancel the attack. Another thing that I want to go over is that, I mentioned that you can ledge trap very well with Sephiroth's neutral special if you time the explosion during their frames of invincibility when they're about to run out, when they snap the ledge, right? As long as your spacing is correct. I also wanted to clarify that you can actually pretty often get out your Giga Flare when you do this as well. I actually get this out pretty often during every single match because it's pretty easy to get your opponents off the ledge and require them to somehow get back to the ledge, with their up special, with their jumps, whatever. So you actually have ample time to get this move off. You just need to time it. As I mentioned earlier, if you time it at the appropriate time, it will force options out of them. And if you can get the Giga Flare off as opposed to the Mega Flare, it's even more powerful because the explosion does more damage, more knockback, and its explosion radius and time is also greater as well. And last thing, just wanted to mention that all the fireballs, or rather all the flares, are actually very good. If someone's off the side of the map, right, and they're trying to recover from high or whatever, there's opportune times for you to use the regular flare by itself, right? Because this flare, it travels, even though it's slow, if you time it right, it travels the farthest, so you can actually force a jump or an air dodge out of people if you position it in the way that they're actually falling. So you can force an option right. Since it moves so slow, you can actually just follow it up right, and depending on if they air dodge or if they waste one of their jumps right, so you're basically burning resources from them, and depending on what resource that they burn, you can follow up with something else. And if you do it right, you can often checkmate people, if you want to call it that, to where they burn all of their resources or are only left with one or two options, which you can easily cover, right? So that wraps up all my tips, tricks, and advice for Sephiroth's neutral special. I hope that you enjoyed the guide. And here is some live gameplay of my online matches with Sephiroth where I utilize the neutral special. These are online matches and not offline. However, I still hope that you'll be able to learn something on how to use the neutral special in your own battles by watching these. If you have any questions, feel free to post them up in the comments section, and also subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Sephiroth content and Smash Ultimate content in general. And throw the video a like as well if you found value in this guide. That way the YouTube algorithm can show it to others who could find value in the guide as well. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.